Hello everyone, it's Meg Gray, and in this time lapse I'm going to be doing a fantasy style build of two nymphs, the Dryad and the Naiad. The Dryad being a tree nymph, and the Naiad being a water nymph. This build was more or less for me to test my creativity to see how I would depict these mythological beings. So to start, I will make this giant landmass that will serve as the base for this entire build. And I need to make it extra thick so that I have space on one side for a pond deep enough for an organic to fit inside. The first thing I will be adding is this very twisty, enchanted looking tree. To create this tree, all I did was create a center line with a little bit of a twist since I wanted the trunk to be a little bit curvy, and then just traced a bunch of curves around it several times to give it that spiral-like effect. Now the tricky part with this tree was trying to make sure it was thicker on the base and thinner towards the top, so I did have to keep adding extra curves to make sure it looked like a proper tree. But I think this effect turned out really well, and once I was happy with that, I just added a bunch of branches. I might add some more later, but I'm going to leave this here for now and start on something else. Let's clear space and start our first organic of the Dryad. The modeling for me is always the longest process as I tend to be very picky and work a lot by hand. I think she's looking pretty good, so let's move to the other side of this build and work on our other nymph, which is the Naiad. Now she doesn't have much space to be swimming in here, but we do need to make it look like she is floating in water, so I need to be careful with how I create her pose here. I also marked where the surface of the water would go with a couple of blocks to help me get this pose in the right location. And now I'm going to give her a really flowy white dress, and I'm creating this with the mindset that this fabric is floating underwater. And since she is in water, her hair needs to look a little wet too, so it's going to be straighter and when I color it, darker on the edges. For the Dryad, I'm going to give her a long flowy dress using only greens and browns for the colors. I wasn't quite sure how a Dryad would look, so this is my interpretation of it. I went ahead and entwined branches around her arms and her waist, and we're going to give her long flowy hair made completely out of leaves. And I think that looks pretty good. I love all the natural colors, and I love the way they're all blending together. Let's go back to the Naiad, and just to bring a little more color to this Naiad, I'm going to give her a crown of flowery vines. Now it's time to texture the pond a little bit and add a layer of glass for the surface of the water. And now I'm just going to mess around with all of the other landscape texturing. Now that the two main organics are done, I can go into the fun process of detailing everything in this build. I'm going to finish up the pond first by adding some fish underwater as well as some plant life. And the brighter the colors we use for these fish, the better. It looks like some of my land texturing got lost under here, but that's easy enough to fix. Now I need to finish up some of the details of this pond, so I'm going to give it a second layer of glass with various types of colors to give it a sparkling effect, and a little waterfall that's going off the side of the build. Then on top we will add a couple of water lilies and lily pads, as well as some algae that's collecting around the edges of the pond. After doing all of this, I decided I was ready to finish that tree finally, so let's go back over there and add some nice textures to it and give it some nice leaves. Personally, the tree is my favorite part of this build so far. We have a lot of extra space to fill in, so I'm going to just add animals all around this build, starting with a deer. This was my first attempt doing a deer, and I couldn't be more pleased with how it turned out. I do believe it's one of the cutest things I've built in Minecraft so far. That's the biggest animal we're going to have, but now I'm going to go around the entire build and just add a few smaller animals all around. Oh, so this is why the Dryad is holding up her hand. There's going to be an adorable bluebird perched right on top of it. From this point on, it's all about extra detailing, and I feel like I've already detailed this quite a bit, but we're going to keep going on. I found out a really cool way to create moss all around the edges, and to do this I used a shatter brush to paint these random shapes all around the edges, and then I just needed to replace over those with leaves. So that was a quick, easy way to get the bump effect and a very mossy shape all around. This build did need a little more plant life, so I added some cattails around the pond and some ferns around the forest. And because this build just had to have more animals, I added some additional flying bluebirds. Alright, I think this build is finally done. Let's go see how well it turned out. So how many animals did you find? I hope you guys enjoyed that time lapse. If you did like it, be sure to let me know by leaving a like or a comment down below, because that's where they always are. Or subscribe too, if you would like to see more time lapses. I hope you have a fantabulous day, and I will see you later.